This is the reason financially savvy people in 2026 are driving used Toyotas and calling it a flex. Not a Mercedes, not a BMW, a used Toyota. And by the time this video is done, you will understand exactly why that is not a compromise but a strategy, a wealth preservation strategy hiding in plain sight on every highway in America. Here is the uncomfortable truth about the car sitting in your neighbor's driveway. That brand new luxury vehicle they bought to signal success? Bleeding money every single month it sits there. The person who bought a used Tacoma or a used 4Runner 3 years ago, their vehicle has barely moved in value, and in some cases it has gone up. That is not luck, and it is not a Toyota commercial. That is math. And today we are walking through every number. Most people think about their car payment. They track gas, insurance, maybe maintenance, but they completely ignore the single biggest cost of car ownership, which is the value that evaporates the moment they leave the lot. Kelley Blue Book confirmed this in March 2026, and the number they published should stop anyone mid-sentence. The average 2026 model year vehicle retains only about 45% of its original value after 5 years of ownership. The average new car transaction price right now sits at $49,461, which means that car will be worth roughly $22,500 5 years from today. Nearly $27,000 handed back to the universe on a depreciating asset while still paying interest on the loan. Wealth destruction on a payment plan is exactly what that is. And this is where Toyota walks into the conversation and flips the entire equation, because what Toyota has quietly built over the last decade is a vehicle lineup that behaves less like a car and more like a financial instrument. Kelley Blue Book runs the best resale value awards every year, and it carries real weight in the automotive world because it is built on projected retained value across the first 5 years of ownership. When they announced the 2026 winners in March, Toyota took the top spot, and that is not a new development. 6 consecutive years Toyota has held this title, 10 times overall, with previous wins going back to 2014 and continuing through 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, 24, and 2025. No other mainstream brand is within reach of that record, and the headline number behind those wins explains why. Toyota's overall resale value average across its entire lineup lands at 53%, compared to the market average of 45%. 8 percentage points separates those two figures. And when applied to a $40,000 or $50,000 vehicle purchase, that gap converts to thousands of dollars staying in someone's pocket rather than disappearing into depreciation. The individual model numbers push this further. After 5 years, the GR86 retains 86% of its purchase price, the Tacoma holds 80.1%, and the Tundra sits at 78.6%, with the RAV4 Hybrid and Sequoia both landing at 69.9%. The Tacoma specifically retains over 82% of its value after 3 years alone, which KBB named the strongest 3-year retention figure for any vehicle in America. Then there is the KBB Top 10 Best Resale Value list across all vehicle categories for 2026, which includes the Chevrolet Corvette, Ford Maverick, Ford Ranger, Mercedes-Benz G-Class, and Porsche 911 as the 5 non-Toyota entries. The other 5 spots belong to the Toyota 4Runner, Toyota GR Supra, Toyota Sienna, Toyota Tacoma, and Toyota Tundra. 5 of the 10 best resale value vehicles in the American market carry a Toyota badge, and that outcome did not come from marketing. It came from engineering meeting economics consistently over many years. Resale value does not exist on its own. A car holds its price on the used market because buyers want it, and buyers want it because they know it keeps running. So the reliability data underneath Toyota's resale numbers matters just as much as the numbers themselves. iSeeCars runs what is considered the most thorough vehicle longevity study in the industry, and for the 2025 edition, they analyzed data from nearly 400 million cars, not a sample, not a regional survey, but essentially the entire American vehicle market. Toyota came out leading all brands with a 17.8% predicted chance that any given Toyota reaches 250,000 miles against an industry average of 4.8%, nearly 4 times more likely than the average car on the road to hit 250,000 miles. Lexus came in second at 12.8%, Honda third at 10.8%, and Acura fourth at 7.2%. And those 4 brands are the only ones that clear the industry average at all. Every other major manufacturer, GMC, Tesla, Chevrolet, Subaru, Nissan, Dodge, falls below that 4.8% line. Toyota did not just lead the pack on this metric. They claimed 10 of the top 25 spots on the entire list, with the Sequoia sitting at number 1 with a 39.1% chance of reaching 250,000 miles, which works out to more than 8 times the industry average for a single model. Carl Brauer, iSeeCars executive analyst, put it directly when the study dropped. The Sequoia is more than 8 times as likely to hit that milestone as the average vehicle. One anecdote from the real world makes that data tangible in a way that a percentage cannot. A 2008 Toyota Tacoma, featured on the YouTube channel Toyota Jeff Reviews, accumulated over 1.6 million miles on its odometer, not 160,000, not 260,000, but 1.6 million miles on a mid-sized truck that most people would call a workhorse. The broader market has noticed this pattern. By late 2024, the average age of cars on American roads had climbed to 13.6 years, reflecting a population of drivers holding on to vehicles longer, partly from economic pressure and partly because reliable vehicles reward patience. A Toyota that runs well for 15 or 20 years stops being transportation and starts behaving like a long-term store of value. BMW's case is easy to make on paper. Premium interior, genuine performance, a badge that carries cultural weight in almost every country on Earth. None of that is fiction. But what the brochure leaves out is the maintenance profile that follows you home when you drive one off the lot. Data from 2025 and 2026 puts Toyota's 10-year maintenance cost at approximately $4,500 to $6,000, while BMW's 10-year maintenance cost runs $17,000 to $20,000, a gap of 3 to 4 times over a single decade of ownership. By year 7 of a BMW, many owners are facing what people in the automotive world call the big ones: cooling system overhauls, oil housing gasket failures, suspension airbag collapses. A single major BMW repair, one turbocharger replacement, or one transmission electronic fault can land north of $4,000, which according to this same data is more than some Toyotas cost to maintain across 5 complete years. Apply that reality to the depreciation numbers and the 5-year cost of ownership figures start to look genuinely alarming. A 2025 BMW 3 Series carries a starting price of $47,125 and a 5-year total cost of ownership of $69,169, with depreciation alone accounting for $29,625 of that total. The 2025 BMW 5 Series comes in at $59,875 new and runs $79,626 over 5 years, carrying $38,087 in depreciation. Nearly $80,000 to own a $59,000 car for 5 years, and that is the number that never appears in the sales pitch. Toyota's ownership profile runs in the opposite direction, built around predictability rather than luxury theater. And for anyone trying to accumulate wealth rather than display it, predictability is worth more than prestige in the long run. The macro context of 2026 makes the used Toyota case even stronger, and it starts with tariffs. The Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on vehicles imported from Canada and Mexico, along with a 15% tariff on vehicles imported from Japan, and Toyota's exposure to those rates is direct and material despite its substantial American manufacturing footprint. 11 U.S. factories produce roughly 55% of the vehicles Toyota sells domestically, but the Tacoma, one of the most in-demand vehicles on the market, rolls off a line in Mexico and most Lexus models come from either Canada or Japan. The financial hit has been severe. Toyota reported a 25% decline in net income during the first 9 months of fiscal 2026, with tariffs costing the company approximately 1.2 trillion yen, or around $8 billion. Their initial full-year exposure estimate reached 1.4 trillion yen, approximately $9.5 billion, which prompted Toyota to slash its operating income forecast from 3.8 trillion yen down to 3.2 trillion yen. Toyota's CEO, Koji Sato, described the tariffs as highly disruptive and said they cannot be sustained, telling press that forecasting future impact would be very difficult. What that language signals for ordinary buyers is straightforward. New Toyota prices face upward pressure, incentives are getting thinner, and the pipeline for affordable new models is tightening. And when new car prices climb, the used market for the same brand gets more valuable because the gap between new and used widens, which draws more buyers toward used inventory and pushes prices up from below. Search interest for used Toyota vehicles ran on a consistent upward trend throughout 2025, peaking in June at an average used car price of $26,740 across the broader market. By spring 2026, Toyota and Lexus were both dealing with tight used inventory, while other brands watched cars sit on lots for months. Supply and demand working exactly as advertised. Not every used Toyota represents the same opportunity, so the most useful thing this video can do is name where the real value actually lives. The Tacoma anchors the entire argument. For 21 consecutive years, it has led the midsize pickup segment in the United States, and 2025 delivered its best ever annual sales in American history, beating out the Chevrolet Colorado and Ford Ranger in the process. Used 2025 Tacomas currently sell for $32,450 to $64,120 depending on trim and mileage, and buried in that range is a detail that reframes the entire conversation. A used 2025 Tacoma at the lower end of the market still sells for more than a brand new 2026 Nissan Frontier priced at $31,590. A used truck commands a higher price than a new competitor's equivalent. That is how strong the market premium on Toyota actually runs. The 4Runner tells a different but equally striking story. When the redesigned 2025 model hit dealerships, used examples with under 5,000 miles were already listing above $70,000 by June 2025, higher than the MSRP of most brand new TRD Pro or Trail Hunter trims, with sellers turning off comments on listings because the pricing was that controversial. That year, 98,805 units sold in the United States, and Q1 2026 alone pushed 33,244 units, a 294% increase over the same quarter the prior year. A 294% jump in quarterly sales on a model that was already dominant is not a trend reversal. Momentum like that tends to carry. Sitting at the top of the Toyota hierarchy, the Land Cruiser starts at $57,200 for 2026 and targets what CarBuzz described as a more mature, affluent buyer. In 2025, 43,946 of them found owners, a meaningful sales number for a vehicle priced near $60,000, reflecting genuine premium positioning rather than badge inflation. The cultural perception of Toyota as a practical, sensible, slightly unglamorous choice deserves a direct confrontation with the financial data on brand value, because those two things do not match. In February 2025, Brand Finance, the leading brand valuation consultancy in the world, released its annual automotive industry report and named Toyota the most valuable automotive brand on earth, overtaking both Mercedes-Benz and Tesla in the same ranking. Toyota's brand value surged 23% to $64.7 billion, and the driving force behind that surge was strong sales combined with a strategic emphasis on hybrid vehicles at a moment when full EV adoption hit resistance in the broader market. YouGov Brand Index collected data from more than 6 million consumer surveys across 28 markets throughout all of 2025 and Toyota ranked as the top auto brand in multiple markets globally, with the brand's index score in Australia running nearly double that of the next closest competitor. Similar leadership showed up in Japan, Saudi Arabia, and multiple European and North American markets. KBB's annual Brand Watch study for 2025 placed Toyota as the most considered mainstream brand by American car shoppers, not in a category, not in a segment, but across all non-luxury vehicles sold in the country. A brand worth $64.7 billion, leading global consumer trust surveys, winning the most considered brand title in the largest auto market on earth, is not a budget option with good PR. The market has already made its decision about what Toyota represents. The used market is simply where financially disciplined buyers get access to that brand at a discount. Every honest analysis acknowledges the data that cuts against the argument, and there are legitimate counterpoints worth naming directly. Consumer Reports published their 2025 Auto Brand Report Card and placed Subaru at #1 for the second consecutive year, above Toyota, above Honda, above BMW, above Porsche. Toyota came in 5th. Winning 10 KBB Resale Value Awards does not mean winning every reliability ranking in every category, and the distinction between those two things matters for buyers doing serious research. On the model level, not all Toyotas hold value with equal strength. Certain newer Sequoia model years are projected to lose 38 to 41% of their value after 5 years, a meaningful departure from the 2008 through 2022 Sequoia generation, which held value far more aggressively. The arrival of new generations sometimes disrupts what older buyers counted on, and that pattern applies to any brand, including Toyota. The interest rate environment in 2026 adds another layer of complexity because used car loan rates exceeded 10% in spring of this year, and financing a used Toyota at a premium price while carrying a double-digit interest rate can erode the value advantage in ways that get overlooked during the shopping process. The numbers have to work across the entire purchase, not just the sticker. And the strong resale performance of the 4Runner cuts in both directions. Buyers hoping to find a deal on a recent used 4Runner will find the market unforgiving because depreciation has barely started on recent models and the market already knows their value. Walking into that transaction expecting a bargain and instead finding prices close to new car levels is a real outcome for many buyers right now. None of that changes the core conclusion of this video, though, because the argument was never that used Toyotas are cheap. The argument is that they are worth it, and those two things are genuinely different. The culture we live in ties status to sticker price. The more a thing costs at purchase, the more it signals about the buyer, and for a specific social function, that logic holds. But spending money and keeping money are two completely different activities, and in personal finance, what stays in your hands matters far more than what passes through them. A used Toyota, a Tacoma, a 4Runner, a Sequoia, a Land Cruiser, a RAV4 hybrid is a vehicle that the market has repeatedly, consistently, and data-provably decided is worth more than almost anything else of comparable age and mileage. Brand Finance called the Toyota brand worth $64.7 billion in February 2025 and named it the most valuable automotive brand in the world, overtaking Mercedes-Benz and Tesla in the same breath. Kelley Blue Book handed Toyota its 10th Best Resale Value Brand Award in March 2026, while iSeeCars analyzed nearly 400 million cars and found Toyota leading all brands with a 17.8% chance of reaching 250,000 miles, nearly 4 times the industry average. When you buy a used Toyota, you are selecting a vehicle that costs less to run over a decade, holds its value better across 5 years, lasts longer than almost any other option with comparable sales volume, and in 2026 specifically commands a used market premium as new car prices push toward $50,000 and tariffs tighten the supply of new models. That is what a valuable asset looks like. Not a badge on a grill, but a track record backed by data. The most financially disciplined buyers in the room already know this, which is why Toyota and Lexus face tight used inventory in spring 2026, while other brands sit unsold for months, why a used Tacoma sells for more than a new Nissan, and why a 4Runner with 5,000 miles was listed above $70,000 before most buyers had seen one in the wild. The market is not confused about any of this. The market is simply ahead of the conversation, and now, so are you.